The death is announced of Rilban Edward, also known as Tex, Sweetie, or Belle Boy of Latone-Vieux-Fort, who passed away at St. Jude Hospital on Wednesday, 29th August 2018 at 12:53 p.m. at the age of 96. He was predeceased by his son, Robert Edward, grandson, Vincent Constantine, also known as Thomas. Left to mourn 10 children: Camilla Joseph, Jane Edward, Francis Edward, also known as Noel, Paula Edward, all in Vieux-Fort, Ursula Clark in Castries, Pius Edward, also known as Pio, Stephen Edward, also known as Abra, both in Vieux-Fort, Antonia Ward in Trinidad, Cletus Edward, also known as Crown, Lorna Edward, both in Vieux-Fort. 76 grandchildren: Dr. Patrice and Dr. Kieran Ward, both in Trinidad, Angus Joseph, Debbie Joseph, Sharon Joseph, all in London, Nicholas Edward, Andrew Edward, Unifa Edwards, all in Vieux-Fort, Donna Durant in Ohio, Alvin Matre, Cindy Winters, also known as Sinsin, both in Brooklyn, New York, Jade Edward in London, Mersha Winters, Leon Winters, both in Brooklyn, New York, Keisha Winters in New Jersey, Jana Phillip, Winsbert Edward, also known as Tapi or Rot, both in Canada, Zena Maya in Vieux-Fort, Omar Charles, Carlisle Charles, both in Canada, Cleon Matre, Kayla Alexander, both in Vieux-Fort, Abidal Perpi in Brooklyn, New York, Hilia Shalry in Vieux-Fort, Shuma Edward, Marvin Janvier, Christy Javier, Crystal Javier, Latoya Charles, all in Brooklyn, New York, Bradley Charles, Lisa Joseph, both in Vieux-Fort, Emmanuel Edward, also known as Easter, in London, Hassan Edward, Carlton Charles, also known as Boudin, Kent Edward, also known as Cracker, Jemima Charles, all in Vieux-Fort, Kyla Edward in London, Kashma Edward in Deriso, Glenice Rollins, Lara Edward, Shem Edward, Delroy Edward, Elsus Edward, also known as Tija, all in Canada, Jeff Anneville in Brooklyn, New York, Brendan Edward, also known as Teddy, Kian Edward, Asha Edward, Sam Edward, Kendall John, also known as Banan, all in Vieux-Fort, Tia Clark in Brooklyn, New York, Gemma Clark in London, Oswald Clark in Castries, Maxine, Andy, and Kurt, all in the USA, Cletus Constantine, also known as Alex in Vieux-Fort, Claudia Polius in Pierrot, Marie Elva in Brooklyn, New York, Mavi Edward in Mont Cayenne, Albert Ambrose in Auger, Rena Markey in Mont Cayenne, Gabriel Rubin in Canada, Lisa Anderson in Castries, Sharon Jules in Texas, Caleb Edward, Berain Alexander, Tyson Alexander, Calvin Charles, Nilia Paul, Naren Alexander, all in Vieux-Fort, Carleen Edward in Bexo, Azel Edward, Joy Edward, Trent Edward, Nisa Edward, all in Vieux-Fort, 109 great-grandchildren, 16 great-great-grandchildren, daughter-in-law Joan Edward in Latone, Son-in-law, Robert Ward, in Trinidad. Granddaughter-in-law, Prisca Winters, in Brooklyn, New York. Vanita Augustine, in Latone. Grandson-in-law, Andre Durant, in Ohio. Caretaker, Virginia Japierre. Also left to mourn, the Chitoli family, the Suma family, the Tal family, the Collymore family, the Daniel family, the Henry family, the Peter family, the Samuel family, the Hubert family, friends and neighbors from Latone, other relatives and friends both here and abroad. The funeral service of the late Rilban Edward, also known as Tex, Sweetie, or Belle Boy, will be held on Wednesday, 12 September 2018 at Our Lady of the Assumption Catholic Church, Vieux-Fort, at 3 p.m. The body will then be laid to rest at the Latone Public Cemetery. The body now lies at Lazarus Funeral Home, New Dock Road, Vieux-Fort. May he rest in peace.